you'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Carlisle United, the team that's on the ball. Carlisle United, the team for one and all. You're looking good, and we're with you all the way. You'll hear us singing every time you play.
Here Ken Leisure with a pass so
Hello everyone and welcome to the Brunton Bugle, your one-stop shop for all things Carlisle United. From Gary Bennett to Paul Baker and Warren Hawke to Evan Horwood, we've got it covered. In today's episode we're going to look back on two games against Port Vale and Bolton Wanderers, preview United's last chance saloon clashes against Harrogate Town and Cheltenham Town, as well as a news update and a roundup of what ex-Blues have been getting up to, and sort of a look down as well at the run-in as well and what other teams around us have got coming up as well. I'm joined in this episode by one of my co-hosts. It's Dan McLennan. Dan, how's it going, mate?
Yeah, not bad.
You enjoy that selection of players at the start?
Yeah, is there a link?
No, there isn't.
No.
I literally just picked.
I was trying to work out some sort of northeast link. I think they were all in and around northeast clubs at one point.
You're not wrong, actually. They're all lads from the northeast, actually, when I think about it. Yeah. Well, Gary Bennett's from Manchester originally, isn't he?
Yeah, but he's probably most famous for being at Sunderland.
He is indeed. He was a good player in there, wasn't he? He was one of those players. He came in because he came in late in the season, didn't he? I think about November or something like that. And if he'd been there from the start, we probably would have stayed up that season.
Similar to his namesake this season, Reece.
Indeed. Very good points. All right, well, let's get straight into it because there's quite a bit to cover today, isn't there? Funny enough, bit to cover, but one of the game reviews is going to be very, very short. Let's just put it that way. There's not much to cover there. So let's start with contract extensions in the news section. Sorry, that is. Four of the squad members have had their contracts extended. The 1 year trigger options that are in most of our players' contracts these days. So four of the particularly younger lads actually have had their deals extended. They are 20-year-old left back Jack Armour, 24-year-old midfielder Joe Riley, 19-year-old midfielder Taylor Charters, and 20-year-old midfielder Josh Dixon. And the club have also confirmed there will have further news on some of the other players who've got trigger options, that kind of thing, very soon. Thoughts on this news, Dan? I have to say, my initial reaction is I'm pleased. I mean, I expected Armour and Riley. I think that was just a no-brainer with those two. But part of me back of my head think, I wonder if the club are just going to let Charters and Dixon especially go. But given some credit, it looks like we're actually trying to develop a couple of players there, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think, as you said, no complaints with Armour and Riley. Armour especially, I know when he signed, he expected to be second choice, but in recent weeks he's made the left back position his own, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
And just looking up at how many games he's played, he's now made 20 appearances in the league, which is pretty good going. Yeah,
considering he was, like I said, effectively brought in as a sort of a young player to develop. He's done pretty well when he's come in.
Yeah, he's quite similar to, I know when Mellish signed for last season, I can remember he gave a similar interview saying, I'm making a bit of a step up. If I make 15 appearances, I'll be chuffed, sort of thing. So, but very similar to that. And Riley, considering he's 24-year-old, he'd literally played about a dozen games of football before this season, and he's
4 times that he's pretty much played, hasn't he?
Yeah, I've just got it up here on Soccer Pace. He's 43 appearances in total, and nearly all of them as starting.
Yeah.
So he's deservedly so. The other two, Charters, I think we had to with Charters as a player there. He's had a couple of good appearances this season. And I think with Dixon, I think they've really, really given him time, haven't they?
Yeah.
But I would also argue it's probably last chance saloon next season.
Well, it is, of course, it's got to be. It's one of those ones you look, and if he's maybe not quite ready to start next season, do you maybe send him out on loan somewhere for half a season? I mean, I know you've mentioned Annan before, but I think he needs to be at a higher level than Annan. I'd look maybe at a conference club, potentially get him there and get him playing some games, possibly.
Yeah, as long as we could be guaranteed he got the football. Yeah.
True. Very true. I think they've done the right thing with this. With Riley, the only question you'd maybe ask is maybe they could have offered him an extended deal. But I wonder if that's one to discuss over the summer, basically.
Yeah,
just getting tied down.
I think with a lot of the players who were on 2 years or 1 year with 1 year option, I think we could see sort of coming up to Christmas time next season, we'll start seeing new deals for one or two.
Yeah, you'd think so. And I think obviously we mentioned looking at the rest of the squad, there's players who are not tied down for next season. We're going to get into that in the match review stuff, aren't we? I think we've got a little section in there to talk about that. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with those. Other contract news, in terms of the second year YTSs, so United have announced their decision on the second year YTS players. And although they're doing really well again in their league this season, I mean, they're second place, I think, at the moment, and looking nailed on for a top 3 finish by the looks of things. Only one player, other than obviously Lewis Bell, got a deal at the start of the season, a 2-year deal with an option, because he's a player they really, really do think very highly of. Only one player's got a deal. Keelan Leslie, he's an attacking playmaker and a set-piece specialist. He's been offered a 6-month deal with an option. I'm not convinced he's going to sign that. I'll be honest with you. It's one of those ones, isn't it? It's strange.
I don't know. I think he might, but straight away, you're looking at who he's up against in the squad. You're probably looking at Mellish, Charters and Dixon.
Yeah. That's the problem as well. We got so many midfield players, and we'll get onto those contract situations later. But yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it? But I'm not sure I quite see the point of a 6-month deal. I think we've done that with players in the past, and they've usually just ended up leaving at Christmas. It's never working out.
Yeah.
And, it's one of those ones that they must see a player in there possibly, but it does maybe suggest that it's the first year YTSs that have done really, really well this season.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, I know there's just been a story came out on the website about the new batch of first years.
Yeah.
But in that article, there was a mention of a couple of this season's first years have been sort of the prominent, the obvious one is young Sam Fishburne, who seems to score for fun. In fact, they've already sort of earmarked the fact that he might sort of do a bit with the first team next season anyway. So
they might do like a Gary Medine move him and get him tied down at the start of next season.
Yeah.
Have him real Lewis.
Well,
Bell
similar to Lewis Bell, yeah.
Exactly that. Other bit of news, new shirt sponsor announced. So obviously with the collapse of Edinburgh Wool Mill in the last few months, United have been looking for a new shirt sponsor, and they found one. It's a local company, Thomas Graham. The industrial supplies firm, they've been a long-term supporter of the club, and they'll appear on next season's kits, which again will be made by Aria. Good bit of news this is, Dan, isn't it, to get someone tied down? And I have to say, this is a personal opinion sort of thing, but I'm glad it's not a betting company we got, because you see so many of them around clubs now, and there's been some interesting articles about them on The Athletic, if you haven't seen them, and some of these Chinese and Far East and gambling firms, not the best businesses to get in bed with, are they?
No. Part of that was, it wasn't really mentioned this as part of it, but we've signed another 2-year deal with Aria. Even though it's the second time we've used them, Mr. Holdsworth, when he said it was our first time. It was only 20 years ago, yeah.
I'm going to keep saying that.
Do your history, please.
Yeah. Well, because Jeff Jackson's put a load of highlights up from around about that time as well.
Yeah.
See them. Yeah.
But no, Thomas Graham, and they're well known as supporters of the club, and I think by the sounds of it was a bit of a last minute thing, because they normally finalise the following season kit around December, January, and that's when EWM sort of finally went, belly up. So
yeah, it's one of those ones, isn't it?
But no, good to have a local firm. It's always nice to have a local firm.
Yeah, definitely. And the one slight concern, this is a very sort of technical way of looking at it, is their logo's got quite a bit of blue in it. So one thing I hate is shirt sponsors where they have a big white box on the front with the sponsor's logo in. So have a think about that, guys.
It would be nice if they made the blue into white, if you know what I mean. So it was a white sponsor on the blue shirt.
Yeah, similar to what Edinburgh Wool Mill did, isn't it?
Yeah. But I'm sure they've thought of those sort of things.
Yeah, indeed. Right, let's look at the match review section then. So we're looking back at 2 games we just played. No goals for the Blues in either of these games. First game finished Carlisle United 0, Port Vale 0. Second game, Bolton Wanderers 1, Carlisle United 0. So the 6-game unbeaten run has come to an end this week. But I mean, more importantly, it's now 4 games without a win, and I think hopes of a playoff place sort of disappearing over the horizon, aren't they, Dan?
Well, it's very, very typical Carlisle United, this, because I've just got the league table in front of me, and look, sort of jumping the gun a bit, but looking forward to the weekend, Harrogate, you would sort of expect us, as this is one of our games we would win.
Yeah.
And in true Carlisle style, I can see us winning it to keep us in the mix, but just that little bit not quite close enough, but still be a chance, because it's Carlisle United and it's what we do. Exactly that.
So yeah, let's have a look at the games now then. Port Vale. Should we just leave it there and just move on? God almighty. It's a dreadful game of football.
It was terrible, wasn't it? It really was. And there's not much. It was a clean sheet. And I know you've got a little stat on Paul Farman associated with that.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a second.
But
it was a tough one, wasn't it? I think they made a point on Radio Cymru about the fact that it was a very dry and bubbly pitch. And I'm not usually one for excuse about pitches, but I have to agree. And this is not a criticism of Dave Mitchell. I'm sure he's desperate for the end of the season so we can get that pitch right back into the shape it's always usually been in. But it wasn't easy for either side, was it?
No. And Port Vale were quite big at the back, weren't they? And
very well organised. You can see
they were organised, and they comfortably dealt with what we offered. Likewise, we did with what they offered. I mean, we were quite fine at the back. It was just not much to really say, is it?
No, Sean Brisley was not the defender I remember playing for Carlisle United. I tell you that much. He's excellent, wasn't he?
Sean Brisley is one of them who's in my file of players I liked that just didn't do it for us, because I'd watched him a few times before he came here. When he signed, I was like, that's a pretty good signing, that. And it just, barred his wonderful volley that day, it's just never really happened for him when he was at Carlisle. Yeah. So.
He was brought, like I said in last week's episode, he was brought in as a ball-playing centre-back for us to play alongside Michael Rains and give us a bit of quality back there. And he never looked the same. But whereas for Port Vale, he just got rid of everything. He just dealt with it, didn't he? I mean, Leon Legg's a brilliant player at this level. He always has been, hasn't he? And he dealt with everything at the back. One point I did actually pick out from this is the last 3 games before the Bolton game, we played against teams that played a back three, and we just struggled to make inroads a little bit in those games. I mean, Newport, we made a few more, but they still looked, we didn't probably do enough to really deserve to win that game. Is that something maybe we need to look at for next season, how we deal with a team like that?
I think when you're coming up against a back three, your lone striker can be isolated very, very quickly. Because obviously your 2 wide men, the full-backs, can come back. And it just leaves plenty of bodies in the middle. So, it'd be nice to try 2 up front in that sort of game.
Yeah, I think maybe just mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, put Zanzala with Alessandra just off him. And, even bring Scott for a chance on if one of them isn't producing,
Yeah, definitely. The only other point to pick out from this game, like you mentioned there before, Dan, another clean sheet. So Paul Farman now has 14 for the season, and that draws him level with Jack Bonham in the 2017-18 season and Adam Collin in the 2010-11 season. He now needs just one more to be our best goalkeeper performance since Kieran Westwood picked up 18 clean sheets in 07-08. I mean, if you get 4 clean sheets for the last 4 games, well, last few games even. But yeah, there you go.
We can dream.
We can but dream, can't we? Yes. Let's leave that one well behind. Really, no. I mean, I sat down before when I was doing this running order, and I was trying to think, what chances did we actually have in this game? And I genuinely could not recall a single one. I was really, really struggling. I mean, when you look at the stats, I mean, we had 13 shots apparently, and 2 were on target. I just genuinely could not remember them. I'm just baffled by it, but there you go. Yeah, difficult one. Let's go on to the Bolton game. It looked like it was going to get away from us early on this game, but it actually ended up being a lot closer than we first thought. And second half, I mean, the possession stats at half time were wildly in Bolton's favour. By the end, they were pretty much closed in to be equal, which shows you just how much we dominated the second half. But probably a bit unlucky not to get a point from this game. Yeah,
we probably finished a little bit stronger, but as has so often been the case, especially away from home, we just don't have that cutting edge.
Yeah, we're wasteful, aren't we?
Yeah, when against a team of sort of Bolton's quality, you do need to take those moments. We had chances, you know. I mean, early when they scored, there was an argument. There was a slight offside. You know, it was hard to tell.
Borderline, isn't it?
I think if you're talking VAR lines, it possibly would have been, but yeah,
it's a tough one, isn't it? Bolton, I mean, they look a very tidy side in the ball. You can see the whole, you know, Barcelona nonsense that always people bang on about. They do try and keep the ball and try to play it a little bit. Played some nice stuff, but Farman didn't have that many saves to make when you think about it, did he? Especially second half. It was pretty much all us. And that Santos at the back, the one they bang on about being the best defender in League One and League Two, he still looks shaky when you get at him, doesn't he? There's a couple of times we robbed him of the ball. So it's one of those ones. And second best in the first half we were, but we did have a couple of times when we got in, and for me, Amari Patrick was very wasteful in a couple of situations, and they're the big things for me that he needs to improve on as a player.
Yeah, I mean, I know we've discussed this before we recorded. All of our wide players have been guilty of this at points.
Yeah.
You know, Patrick, Coyote, Toure, they're annoyingly inconsistent, I think would be the fair way to describe it.
Yeah, definitely.
They're typical of League Two sort of wide men at the moment, in that for every good game you get a couple of bad ones, which is why they're at this level at the moment.
Yeah,
but no, but it also brings up more interesting points that I know we're discussing later when we talk about contracts and that. But it was just one of them annoying. I mean, I think given the run that Bolton have been on, not many fans truly expected a win on Tuesday night, but I don't think at the same time Bolton would have complained if we'd managed to nab the draw.
Yeah, I think they would have probably, the way we battered them second half, and they might not complain too much. It was just a point. An early blow in this game, there wasn't a Rod McDonald went off an injury. I'd say actually one thing I did pick out from the Port Vale game, Rod McDonald was excellent in that game. Considering he'd had some one duff game recently, but every other game I think he's played recently he's been looked excellent, and it was a big blow when he got injured. But it was about 9 minutes in, wasn't it? Something like that, I think. And Nick Anderton comes in, and you've mentioned it before. He sees left centre back potentially as his long term position, and he had a really good game there. He looks like a player potentially, if he's still with us next season, he could be a really good player in that position, possibly as an extra option.
Yeah, well, we've said it about both Anderton and Armour more due to his size, to be honest. But you know, it's good that we do have players that can. I mean, it was shown earlier in the season when Hayden had to cover at right back for a couple of games. You know, when you've got defenders who can play across the line, it is quite a handy thing to have, isn't it?
We can't afford to have two players to cover every position, can we? We just because of this, you know, the budgets and things like that.
Yeah.
We have to have players who are going to fill several positions, and Anderton looks like. I mean, Anderton's very good in the air. It's something actually goes a little bit underrated. He's very strong aerially, so he could play centre back there, and he's good on the ball. So you know, it potentially is a long term option for us playing him there, and he's at a good age too as well. So. Yeah, I didn't mind seeing him play then. I thought he did cope really well actually against a player like Owen Doyle, who bar the goal didn't do a huge amount, did he?
I've just pulled up Nick Anderton's profile on Transfermarkt to get his height. He's marked down as 6'2", which that's quite big for a left back.
Yeah, he's a big strong lad. And,
you know, so yeah.
Yeah, I do wonder maybe if he's potentially that's something that. Obviously, if McDonald, it looks like McDonald's probably going to miss the weekend. You'd think you don't go down early in a game like that with an injury where no one really touched him. It's just the way he landed down on his foot.
One flip side, though, if you one going back to the Port Vale game, we said there's nothing to talk about. Reece Bennett was out doing a bit of work on the pitch, and I think Chris Beach had a little update on him and Morgan Feeney during the week. Where he seemed to suggest that Bennett was a little bit ahead of Feeney, who is also out on grass, but not quite, maybe a week behind type thing.
Probably get his debut on the last day, won't he, this
year? Yeah, I do wonder if Bennett could possibly maybe be back for Saturday.
Possibly.
A full week of training in him, maybe a little injection or something.
Yeah, maybe see how it goes. But to be honest, I wouldn't want to risk him picking up a longer term injury. I mean,
No.
He's out of contract anyway. So
I'm sure the medical team will get the final say.
Yeah. I mentioned it already, obviously, but we do need to sort out how wasteful we are with chances we create for next season. I think that's one area that really Beach can focus on, isn't it, over the summer, to make sure we're more efficient in that sense. Good to see Josh Coyote back starting a game. Got his Rotherham contract extended, didn't he, the other day? And rumours about bigger clubs sniffing around. I wonder if that agent talked to get that new deal.
Yeah, possibly.
He's not going to be back with us next season, probably, is he? I think even if
I
we're in
would
League
be surprised.
One, even if we got to League One, I think they'd probably want to send him somewhere else to test himself.
There's a chance Rotherham might be in League One themselves yet. So
yes, exactly that.
I would imagine if they did go down, they would want him to play. Yeah. So
I mean, he's a good player, Coyote. There's no doubt about that. But I was discussing this with a mate the other day. I don't know what he excels in. He's good, very good aerially. That's one thing I would say. He wins a lot in the air, although direction-wise, does he always get it to a player? I don't know. But that could be just our players not being clever enough to make the runs. He's got a good long throw in him, but I mean, he's not exceptionally pacey. He's not got bags of skill to get past the player, and his finishing's not top-notch, you'd say. I know he's played out wide a lot for us this season, but even when he's played centrally, he's not done that brilliantly in terms of finishing. I think there's a very good player in there. I do wonder where his final position will be. I
often watch him and think he reminds me of a more mobile Derek Holmes.
Yeah.
And I think, I know it's not what we play.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to see him in a two besides, say, Zanzala. You know, I think, especially with his aerial strength, knock-ons, knockdowns, headers, from crosses. Yeah. But we are very much 4-3-3, so...
Yeah, stuck rigidly to that, haven't we? Yeah, let's talk about... We don't really want to talk about referees too much, but a couple of bits at the end of this game were just bizarre, weren't they?
Yeah.
What was he playing? I mean, ball comes to the box and Gilks goes down with an injury. Now, I know what people said he's play acting, but actually when you watch he land, he doesn't really wait long to suddenly say he's injured. I think he might have done something there, possibly. Obviously, he's got to give a drop ball. We were in possession about 5-10 yards outside the Bolton area. One, he doesn't get the Bolton players to stand back far enough. And then he panics, and instead of dropping the ball, he rolls the ball back, which means that Guy's not expecting that. And suddenly, he has to sort of go back and try and hook the ball into the area. And he's stopped by the first man, basically, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then when we do finally get the ball back and get it into the area, a long ball forward, it comes down, it lands on a player. When you say it lands on a player, the player's arm's up, and he hits a player's arm. And he gave nothing. Completely ignored it. And then the final whistle goes. It's
very strange, very strange.
Very odd behaviour, but I think he panicked a bit when he gave the drop ball, wasn't he? Because he thought, I'm pretty much gifted them a free kick here. So, but there you go. One other point I want to pick specifically from this game. Obviously, Joe Riley went off after he just picked up a booking for basically kicking a player as he was getting away from him. Dean Furman came on. Bit of a dilemma here now. I know you're a big fan of Dean Furman, Don.
Yeah.
Right? Is he a bit of a luxury to have in this squad for us? I know he's out of contract at the end of the season, so there's probably a bit of discussion whether he would want to stay and whether we'd want to keep him. But what I've noticed is when he comes on, we do tend to play better football. And I think we actually were a bit clever with the way we played when he came on. He got the ball down and tried to spray it out wide and make us play a little bit. But how do you fit him into the team? Because whenever he comes on, you lose another element. You lose... I mean, he doesn't come on for Mellish very often, but you'd lose Mellish's driving into the area because he looked a threat in the game against Bolton. Actually, he's the one who looked like he was going to score for us of anyone. With Joe Riley, you lose that energy chasing players around and winning the ball back and driving forward with the ball. With Callum Guy, obviously, you lose that player who sits and can spray it about a bit. I know Thurman can do elements of all that. It's a question how you'd fit him into the team. It's a tough one, isn't it? Do you maybe play Guy and Thurman as two sitting players and then have Riley or Mellish sort of bombing forward? It's a tough one.
Well, as you say, I am a Furman fan. I think he brings a lot to us, and I think he's one of them players who actually has a touch that belongs at a higher level. Because when you watch some of the balls he makes, they're bloody good balls, but occasionally one or two of our players are maybe half a step behind, so they don't look as good.
Yeah.
One thing I will say with Furman as well, several players have given interviews about the squad and the camaraderie. Nearly every one of them has mentioned Dean Furman and said what a brilliant fella he really is.
Yeah.
I think he's genuinely one of the good guys in football.
Yeah.
You know, he won't complain. He comes in, he's a model professional, and especially with some of the younger players, I've seen it mentioned 2 or 3 times that he's really good with them, you know, advice, sits with them, gives them advice, listens to them, you know, and I think that's a great thing to have in and around the squad. And I would personally like to see him get another year.
We'll get on to contracts in a minute, actually. We'll cover that in a second. So yeah, that's the Bolton game pretty much covered off. So just a few general sort of points. We sort of already touched on this, but do you think the season's over now or not? It's a tough one. Maybe it's one to look at in the match preview stuff, because we can look at who the teams around us are playing, possibly. Maybe to look at
Lee.
Yeah, I know.
How many times do you have to be told this is Carlisle United Football Club?
I know.
Yes.
It's going to go down to the last day, isn't it? For God's sake. But there you go. One thing I would say, would staying down maybe be a good thing for us? I'm sort of looking ahead here and thinking if we did go up, I think there'd need to be a lot of rebuilding and potential recruitment to get us up to the standard of being a League One team. I'd look at whether you should stay down another season, not should, but whether you did stay down another season and then you keep the core of the good players you've got and then build and add that extra bit of quality. Cheltenham Town's a perfect example. Lost in the playoffs last season, didn't they? And I think was it Northampton that beat them quite comfortably as well, I think, in one of the games. And you look at the way they've recruited over the summer and built a good squad, and they've been right up there for the whole season. We'll see that in the match preview bit. Would that be a better way for us to do it?
Well, this sort of ties in with what we were going to go on next about the contracts. I'm just looking at the list we've got here on our script, and we've got the nucleus of our team stroke squad already under contract for next season.
Yeah.
Look at the keepers. Norman's contracted. I'd be amazed if Farman doesn't get offered a second year.
I think he should get a 2-year deal, to be honest. He's shown himself good enough. He's shown he's good enough. He's been excellent, really. I think in fact, I'd argue he's probably been one of the most underrated players this season. He genuinely has been really that good. I've heard a few people complain he doesn't come for his crosses. I think he's all right with the crosses. He punches when he has to. I can't think of many where he's dropped the ball and opposition have scored or he's not really claimed it. I think he's worth 2 years, definitely.
Yeah. And when you look at the defenders, we know that Tanner and Armour are already contracted. Yeah. And given the way that Armour's developed, you would look at them two as being your first choice fullbacks next season.
Potentially, yeah.
Rod McDonald has another year because he was a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
And then
interesting, you say he's a 2-year deal. I do wonder with that one, his wage is probably not going to be as big as some other players. I think he maybe took the security of the extra year with a lower wage, whereas other players who've got the option probably took a bigger wage but backed themselves to have the option triggered for another season. That's the way generally you find these contracts work, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
then we come to decisions. I mean, Hayden has an option. I'd be very surprised if A, we either obviously implement it.
It's going to be triggered, isn't it?
Or B, offer him another deal, as in 2 years.
I think him and Callum Guy are the two I reckon they're doing that with.
Yeah, because we know that they've been watched by higher clubs.
I mean, Hayden definitely.
Championship clubs, solid championship clubs as well.
And clubs that are pushing for a place in the championship in League One. Yeah, at least one club from that level. So
we won't name them because we pick some things up that we're not meant to know and that. But solid clubs have been looking at those two mainly. Scouts have talked about them. So yeah, I mean, like I say, they've both got the 1 year option, but it wouldn't be a surprise if we try to make it 2 year deals so that we increase their value. Defensively, Anderton, he's captain officially, so I'd be surprised if he doesn't get an offer.
Yeah, you'd imagine maybe it's one of those ones where maybe we'll say to him, look, we'll maybe look to develop you as a centre back as well, knowing that Armour's done so well.
Yeah.
So you'll have the option of playing both positions possibly. So
Yeah. Then we've got a couple that decisions about them. Feeney, unfortunately for Feeney, he would probably have been playing games now.
Yeah.
But he got injured in training. And Bennett, I think Bennett will go because I think he'll be able to get more somewhere.
Yeah, I do wonder if the injury might have put a bit of a dent in that move for him, because as well, his form had dropped off a little bit before that too.
Yeah,
so,
true.
Although you do wonder if he was one of the players affected by COVID potentially. So
you
never know. But yeah, with Feeney, it's a tough one because there's clearly a very good player there. People are going to say, "Oh, it's injury prone," but to be fair, the injury he picked up was a broken bone. And that's not like, players constantly getting muscle pulls, is it? Like knee problems.
A fit Morgan Feeney would not be at Carlisle United.
No, exactly. I think he's
I think he's worth the gamble of 1 year with an option type thing.
Yeah, definitely. And then you've got a nucleus of a good young squad. And if Bennett does go, then you've got some money sat there. To go. So,
the young lads, Lightfoot, Wilson and Barnes, they've not featured. It's been hard for them because obviously they were connected to Kendall so they could get game time with non-league wrapping up due to COVID. I think it's just, I'd be very surprised if they got anything.
I think they're gone, to be honest. I think it's got to be really sick. The 5 first-year pros are not going to get extended deals, I don't think.
No, I'd be very surprised.
Obviously, the other two being Charlie Birch and Jamie Armstrong.
Yeah.
I mean, at a push, maybe Armstrong because he's broken foot.
Yeah, he's been out a while, yeah.
Probably not, I'd imagine.
No. The bit that's interesting is midfield because nearly all our midfielders already under contract now.
Yeah.
Mellish is end of next season with an option. Dickinson and Devine were 2022.
Yeah.
Riley, Charters and Dixon have all been extended. And as we've just said, Guy, we've got an option, but again, we wouldn't be surprised if he was offered a new deal full stop.
So the only one there leaves Furman, doesn't it now?
Furman, and we've just said that Birch as part of the young ones who'll go, we would think.
The thing with Furman is, potentially, you would keep him. You think he's a good, useful player, and he fits in well. But
it depends.
If you sign him up, you've not got much wiggle room to bring anyone else in, have you? That's the problem.
Yeah, it also depends if he's happy with his role.
Yeah,
because yes, I've said he's not the sort of player to complain and kick off.
But he's 32 now.
Is he thinking, I want to play a little bit more?
He's 32 years old. Yeah. He's not going to want to be sitting on the bench another season, is he?
Yeah.
Exactly that.
But on the flip side, he's still playing for South Africa. I know he didn't go last time due to the red zone issues, but
although since then the South Africa coach has been sacked, I think, who was one of his old coaches, I think, in South Africa, so maybe that link won't be there anymore. He might not be considered.
True.
Possibly. Attackers.
Yeah, it's the complete opposite of the midfield because the only attacking player who's contracted officially is Lewis Bell, who's got 2 years plus 1 year option. And as we mentioned earlier, he's well thought of and, he's probably having his... And we know he was badly affected by COVID.
Yeah.
So this season's been a bit of a write-off for him, but... a good summer, keeping fit and come back raring, and that could be one of our wide positions sorted. But when we look at the rest of them, if you'd asked about Zanzala in the end of February, there'd have been a collection to get him the first train ticket out of town. When you ask about Zanzala now,
the collection to get him to sign up.
Yeah, you wouldn't be unhappy if he got offered a deal. Chedwin Scott, it's been a bit hard for him, especially with the lack of regular reserve games. Thing, I think he's probably worth a year. It's not
going to be a massive wage, is he?
No. He's a local lad as well. He only lives out sort of between Haltwhistle and Hexham Way.
I hope if our playoff hopes do disappear in the next couple of games,
he gets to run out.
He gets to run out in those last two games just to see how he does.
Especially if Zanzala's carrying a niggle.
And like I said, you're not going to have Coyote next season, so let's see how this lad does. That's what I do.
Which we've got Alessandra, and he was a 1 year option. I think he's probably done enough.
Yeah,
because plus he's like the senior man up front sort of thing. But it wouldn't be a surprise if he maybe came off the bench a bit more next season.
Yeah, possibly.
You know, depending on what happens. Yeah. And then we come to sort of the enigmas, you know. Gimme Toure and Omari Patrick, who are both have options, but we've not heard anything yet.
I think Omari Patrick is a lot more consistent of the two, and I think when he's on a good run, he really goes on a sort of longer good run, and then he maybe fades off a bit. It's been a tough season for everyone. I think he could be one of those players who's affected by COVID as well. And it's so frustrating that when he was just hitting his real peak form, the break happened for us, didn't it? The game against Walsall, he was excellent, and then bam, we lost all those games. I think I'd extend Patrick. Toure, I think there's a play in there, but I just don't. I think it's tough because I think we do need to freshen things up there. So you can't give them all deals. That's the problem.
There's no point giving the likes of Lewis Bell a 2-year deal if you're then not going to play him because Toure's ahead of him.
Yeah. It's
and
tough.
If he's as well thought of as we know, he's got to start playing games.
Yeah.
Bell, that is, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think I probably would extend Toure. And I really like that. I think he could be a real asset to another team. I can see him going somewhere else and being excellent. Yeah. I think it would probably help him as well to go somewhere during non-COVID times when he's able to mix it.
Yeah, and I know he had his little thing where he was a bit homesick over Christmas and that.
Yeah. It'd be good I think for him once all that's died down.
Yeah.
I think he's one I probably wouldn't extend. And that's not because I don't think he's a good player. I just think a fresh start would actually do him a lot of good, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's it for the review stuff, Dan. Covered quite a bit there, actually, in the end. Didn't cover much on the Port Vale game, but, you know, that's the way it is. No, definitely not. Definitely not. Okay, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back in a minute, and we'll be discussing the Harrogate and Cheltenham games. We'll be back soon.
Hi, this is George Tanner. You are listening to the Brunton Bugle.
And everyone, we're back for part 2 now. We're going to look ahead to the last double header of games of the season, isn't it, Dan? Was it 11 weeks we've done of this?
Yeah, it's been some run, hasn't it?
Astonishing, isn't it? You know, well, as annoying as it is that we're just not quite in that playoff pack at the moment, I think fair play to the players for actually recovering during this really tough run, actually getting us even within just a little bit of contact of it. I think it's been an incredible effort, I've got to say that. We haven't got an opposition podcast on for this week. I just haven't had the time to sort it out. We'll definitely do one for the Orient game next week because we've chatted with the lads from the Lowdown podcast about 4 or 5 times this season, haven't we? Because of the various games being called off. So we'll have another good crack with them. What could be basically a game that decides which one of us is still in contention for playoff place on the last day, couldn't it? The way it's going. And we'll obviously do one on the last day with Walsall as well if we can get one of their podcasts to join in. So yeah, the Harrogate game, like I said, it's a game that really we've got to be targeting 3 points from, haven't we, Dan?
Yeah. If we're to hang on the coattails, this is a must-win because when you look at the fixtures, there's big fixtures at the weekend, you know. Newport play Exeter, that's 7th versus 8th.
Yeah. Well,
you know.
Should we have a look at those in a minute? And what we'll do we'll sort of look at Harrogate and Cheltenham first, and then we'll go through the... Because what I've done is I put together a table for you
I've
to
just
look
seen
through
scrolling down,
all the fixtures. So Harrogate, I think it's fair to say that they're probably happy with their first season in the EFL because they're going to be in it next season again.
Yeah, job done, isn't it?
Job done for them. Good first half of the season, kept them out of trouble, kept them safe. Pretty poor second half of the season, but as I've mentioned in the thing, they haven't got the biggest squad. I know it looks bigger, but they've had some long-term injuries and had to bring in players on loan to sort of cover that. And I think they've probably done well to just keep themselves away from trouble, haven't they? And I think that their manager, Simon Weaver, will probably look and think, right, I know what I need to do for next season now to strengthen the squad. You'd think that's where they're looking at, isn't it?
Yeah. I think they'll be happy. They've got themselves sort of established in the league. They've probably shown that they would have won the National League last season if the season was played to an end. That's not a dig at any other club, particularly Barrow. But,
to be fair, Barrow lost a few key players as well in their running, so let's be fair here. But yeah, I mean, looking at their recent results, they've not been playing too well.
No.
big one for them though was a 2-1 win over Bradford recently, who were obviously chasing for the playoffs like us, and really put a dent in Bradford's playoff hopes, didn't it?
Yeah, if Bradford had won that game, they'd have been above us. So yeah, Bradford will have been disappointed with that one. But just to sort of show how spectacularly inconsistent Harrogate are, they then got hammered 3-0 off Oldham.
I mean, Oldham are very Jekyll and Hyde this season. They either absolutely batter teams or they get battered, don't they?
Look who the manager is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for most of the season though, they've just been crazy. I mean, they've scored 7. They've got the best goal record in the division, but they've also got the best defence. I mean, you don't see that very often, do you?
Yeah,
it's absolutely crazy, that, isn't it? Yeah. So I mean, looking at Harrogate's squad as well, just looking through their last lineup, there's not a lot of Football League experience in there, is there? Really, when you look, in fact, 2 of the most experienced players in terms of Football League games for them are John Stead and probably Mark Beck. Yeah, actually, which is crazy when you think about it.
They've actually stayed quite loyal to the players that came up with them, and I think you'll probably see a natural sort of, movement of 1 or 2 of them will probably drop out a little bit, and they'll start to bring in a couple of experienced heads to try and sort of push on and establish a little bit more.
Yeah, I think in terms of the danger men in their squad, I mean, I find it tough actually because there's not, like I said, there's no real standout quality players. But I mean, Jack Muldoon's the obvious one, isn't he? I think he's their top scorer this season. He's had a really good first season in the Football League. Josh McPake, obviously on loan from Rangers, and George Thompson, decent midfielder who's had a good first season as well. So yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much covers Harrogate. Not much to say about head-to-heads, is there? We played them once and we've lost.
Eventually, when we did play them.
Yeah, on our 3rd trip to the Weatherby Road, as it was. Different sort of proposition, isn't it, on Tuesday night? Cheltenham Town, got to say, what an impressive season they've had, haven't they? I mean, just in terms of consistency, arguably the most consistent team in the division, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, we did think that they might struggle this season a little bit, didn't we? Because... we did wonder, wasn't it? Yeah. But no, they've been excellent. So, and they fully deserve to be in the top 3, don't they?
Yeah, when you compare it with Cambridge, Cambridge dropped off massively mid-season, and they've done really well to get themselves back up.
Yeah.
When you look at Cheltenham's stats, I was looking at this beforehand. I mean, they've not been outside the top 6 since match day 4, and they've been in the top 3 since match day 26. So, pushing on 15 games now. 15, 16 games they've been in the top 3.
Yeah.
They're going up, basically, whatever happens. There's no way they're getting overhauled by Bolton and Morecambe, are they, really, realistically?
No.
In terms of their squad, I mean, they're really well put together squad, isn't it? When you look at good, solid League 2 performance, but a little bit of quality sprinkled in. Ben Toes is an excellent centre-back. Liam Sercombe, quality midfielder, who was at Bristol.
Yeah.
Bristol City.
Alfie May's always one that stands out, isn't he?
Yeah, he really is. And Andy Williams as well. Scores for fun. Say scores for fun. Actually, when you look at it, they've not really got a big score in the squad, have they? Andy Williams is the top scorer of 8 goals.
There's an 8, a 6, an 8, and then threes and 4s. So they're quite similar to us in 96, 97, where it was spread around the team a bit.
They rely a lot on the set piece as well, don't they? Corners, but especially long throws. I mean, we think Coyote's got one of the best long throws in the division. I think he's just eclipsed by Ben Tozer, isn't he?
Yeah.
Centre-back who was at Newcastle in his early days, I think. Northampton and Swindon as well. I mean, he's a big lad anyway, but he just launches the ball in the box. And he's their top assistant with 8 assists as a centre-back, which tells you a lot, doesn't it, really? But they're effective. Michael Duff's done a superb job in his first full management role, and you'd imagine there'll be bigger clubs sniffing around because he's also been in Burnley's academy, hasn't he? I think for a bit as well.
Yeah.
He's a good player. Worth noting, they could potentially be in a position to secure promotion in this game. So
I think this is the make or break fixture for us.
Yeah,
because
it's one of the ones you look at it.
I would expect us to win on Saturday, and then this because they're going for the title.
Yeah,
so they'll want to win.
Yeah, you'd imagine. A point minimum is what we need from this. We can't lose it, basically. 10 points is the minimum we have to get for the rest of the season, I think.
Yeah.
When you look at it. Ideally 12, but have to wait and see how it goes. But yeah, I just think it's going to be a tough test. The second best defence in the division as well. only 36 conceded. Salford
I've just looked there. Cheltenham have got 3 of the last 4 at home. So, they'll be looking at them thinking, 3 wins.
Big
Three
chance,
wins
big
and
chance,
run up.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Big chance, isn't it? Well, before we do United team news, let's have a look then at the remaining fixtures for the remaining clubs. So I've done a little table here for us, Dan. When I look through them, I mean, looking at our fixtures first, we've got Harrogate at home, they're 17th, Cheltenham away, who are 2nd, and then you've got Orient away, 10th, and Walsall at home, 19th. Not a bad set of fixtures to actually have, are they, really, when you look at it?
No, apart from Cheltenham, obviously.
Cheltenham's obviously the tough one, but if you
They're
know what,
winnable.
the winnable. If we really want to go up, then you'd have to win a game. Like, if we can't win a game like that, then we don't deserve to be in the playoffs, do we?
The problem we've got is Leighton Orient of a game less.
Yeah.
But they're away at Southend this weekend, and you would expect them to win that, wouldn't you?
You'd think so, although it's last chance saloon for Southend. They have to win, don't they?
Yeah.
Local derby as well, that game, isn't it? I think these derby summit.
Yeah, it's a bit of a localish game, but you would expect Orient to win that.
You would,
also, Salford are at home to Mansfield, who've petered out a little bit now, Mansfield, haven't they?
Yeah, they just wanted to get to the end of the season and just refresh their squad completely.
They will be. They always have a big turnover anyway. They've drawn a lot of matches recently, haven't they?
Nigel Clough will be just sitting there waiting for the Burton Albion released list to come out, so he can pick up what players he wants there next season.
But like I touched on earlier, the big game is Newport Exeter.
Yeah, this weekend definitely
7th v 8th. I mean,
a draw there is what you want, isn't it?
If Newport win, they're pretty much potentially sealing up the playoffs. Daft as it sounds, an Exeter win wouldn't be the worst result.
No, it's Exeter win or a draw, really, isn't it?
Exeter win, it tightens the pack up, because if Salford win, you would have an Orient, you would have teams on 65, 65, 65, 64, and potentially us on 63. So it would really... The night that's going to decide it is next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Because that's when all the teams in and around play their final game in hand, and there's a bit of one or two. I'm just looking at it. We've got the hard game in Cheltenham away.
Yeah.
Forest Green are home to Barrow, who are 26th. Exeter are home to
26?
Grimsby. 22nd.
So you put them in the National League.
Well, they should be in there anyway. But Exeter have got Grimsby at home, who are 24th. And Newport have got Scunthorpe, who are 20th.
Scunthorpe are the worst team in the division right now in form. Yeah, that's a guaranteed 3 points.
And Salford are away at Bradford, who have they've cooked their goose pretty much, haven't they? It would take a miracle. Well,
I've deliberately only put the teams from 6th down to 11th. Us being 11th, obviously, because if the teams below us get the results, then we're not going to have a chance anyway.
But no, I certainly think that next Tuesday will be the decider for a lot of teams. I don't want to say it, but a defeat could well be, coupled with those fixtures, could well be the nail in the coffin. But this is Carlisle United, and it's never that simple usually. No.
I think if we quickly go through each club, and we'll start with, we've already done ourselves 11th. You mentioned Orient there; they've got Southend at the weekend. You'd think they could get 3 points from that, but then the next, obviously they don't play in the midweek game because they haven't got a game in hand. But then they've got us at home and Salford away, so two teams around them. So that's tough for them.
The problem is, just looking at it, Newport and Exeter, as well as playing each other, on the last game, Newport are at Southend and Exeter are at home to Barrow, and again, they're almost gimmies, aren't they?
And Salford, I should say, in Salford's running, so Salford obviously Mansfield the weekend, and as you mentioned in midweek they've got Bradford, but then they've got Colchester away. I mean, I know they got a result against Southend to pretty much get themselves safe, but I mean they've been awful second half of the season. So other than beating us,
once they're safe, they'll switch off, sort of thing, won't they? So
I mean that on the last day, Orient playing Salford is not a bad one for us actually, because if we're still in it, if that could end up a draw, that would really play into our hands. As you mentioned there, Exeter, they've got Newport the weekend's a tough one. Then Grimsby midweek, like you said, that should be a gimme for them. But then they've got Bolton away, and Bolton might need the 3 points to secure promotion in that game.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a tough one. And then obviously last day they got Barrow. So there's a real mixed bag. They're a real mixed bag, Exeter, aren't they? So they've got 2 teams challenging for promotion and 2 teams that are right down at the bottom.
I just think the teams above us play a couple of the really bad teams, and that could be the deciding factor.
Yeah, I think so. And as you mentioned, obviously we've got Newport's the next one. They're in 7th, they're currently in the playoff positions. Exeter away at the weekend, but then Scunthorpe home, like I said, that should be a gimme. Cheltenham at home, tough one, because Cheltenham would be going for the title at that point, you'd think.
Yeah.
That would be...
And also, when you look at the fixtures, you look at the results of the teams above us, the 10 teams above us, I think we've played 18 games against the teams above us with 2 to come. Yeah. And I think we've only won something like 3 of them.
That's something we need to sort next season against.
Which suggests we are the best of the rest.
Yeah, you'd think so.
Because having not done enough against all those teams above us, we probably don't deserve the playoffs.
No.
Obviously, there's reasons for that. If we didn't have the COVID interlude, the fixture backlog, it could have been a lot different. But overall, we're probably in our true position this season, sadly.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? And finally, Forest Green's fixtures remaining. I mean, I think even though they're in 6th place and they've had a couple of okay results recently, I think they're arguably the team that's in most danger of missing out on a playoff spot. Simply because
possibly.
They've got Crawley at the weekend away, and Crawley are just about scrambling to keep in touch. I haven't included them, but because they're 1 point behind us, I think, aren't they?
That game against Tranmere, the second last game, could be their big game.
Yeah, the massive one. And Barrow at home,
you would expect them to beat Barrow.
But Barrow are sort of hit and miss, aren't they? On the day, they can do it. And Oldham away the last day, that's a tough game. Because
that could be anything.
Oldham could win that 5-3 or lose it 6-1.
Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. So it's a tough one to judge. I mean, look, quickly before we move on, I'm looking at the form table here, and of the teams that are challenging for the playoff places, going upwards, Forest Green are 23rd in the form table.
Yeah.
They won against Scunthorpe 3-2, but they drew 0-0 with Exeter.
And they've got rid of the manager recently as well, haven't they?
Exactly,
So they're all over the place.
Yeah. I mean, Tranmere, we haven't mentioned them because they're probably just about there now. Cause
one more win, they're pretty much in.
They beat Bradford in midweek, and that probably just about pushing. But they're 21st in the form table, last 6 games.
Yeah.
Then you go to 18th. You've got Exeter. I mean, like I said, they've only won 1 of the last 6 against Cambridge. They've drawn the last 2 0-0, so they're struggling for goals at the moment. I mean, Bradford obviously just about there. They're 16th. Crawley are 15th in the form table. Newport are 11th. You know, they've only won 2 of the last 6.
I think all this also alludes to something we've mentioned, and I know the lads on Radio Cumbria have mentioned a lot, and it's a very inconsistent poor division, to be quite honest.
I think the whole pandemic and stuff has just messed up the normal sort of fractured the way the season works. Yeah, it's just thrown teams like ourselves totally off kilter at times, and Orient are 10th in that table. The ones that stand out are Salford City. They're 3rd in the form table. They've only lost 1 of the last 6, and that was against Bolton 1-0. So, if you're going to pick a team that you'd say probably could sneak in there, I'd probably say Salford, realistically.
Yeah. They've,
first ones.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the last games. They've been to Forest Green and won.
Yeah.
You know, they drew away at Tranmere, which is decent. They've got a solid win at Walsall midweek, and it's only really that Bolton game that's tripped them up. So. What are we saying? Are we saying we think Salford will leapfrog Forest Green, possibly?
Possibly. I think Newport got the advantage. Well, I don't know, because Newport is very similar to... Actually, looking at Newport's fixtures...
We could probably have done a whole episode on this, couldn't we?
Newport's fixtures are very similar to Exeter in the sense that they've got 2 teams challenging for promotion. 2 teams right down at the bottom.
Yeah.
And they play each other as well in that thing. So those 2 could easily drop off, and... If things go, you're not going to have both Salford and Orient in there, are you? Because they play each other.
You could basically see, like I've said, you could see a very compacted battle for between 6th and 11th place come 5 o'clock Saturday.
you could see on the final day, I could easily see 4 teams still battling for 2 places.
Yeah.
Quite comfortably.
Whether we're in there will depend on next Tuesday for me.
Exactly that. Okay, well, let's quickly touch on the team news then, Dan. So Rod McDonald, who we mentioned before, is a doubt for the weekend game. He picked up a knock against Bolton. Nick Anderton probably is going to be the one that slots in. Possibly Reece Bennett might make a surprise return, but we'll have to wait and see on that. I think there seems to be hope that Zanzala will be fit again after his knock against Paul Vale. It was just a precautionary thing with that, wasn't it? You don't want to...
no point risking him too much.
Exactly, especially with Coyote being back fit as well. As we mentioned before, Morgan Feeney's closing in on return, but Armstrong and Dickinson are both still out for the rest of the season, aren't they? So...
I would like to think if the worst happens and it is sort of over after Cheltenham, it'd be nice to see Feeney get a game in the last 2 games.
Yeah, it'd be good to see how he runs. And same with Chedwin Scott as well. It'd be nice to see him run out. Predictions. I haven't got any from Mike, so we're just relying on us two. So go on, Dan. What's your predictions?
I can see Saturday being a comfortable 9-0 win.
Okay.
Club record. It'll be typical Carlisle United. We'll go and smash them, get everybody's hopes up, and then we'll just set ourselves up for a downfall at Cheltenham.
Yeah.
So 9-0. Farman will get his goal. Zanzala hat-trick.
You know what?
Tanner and Armour, and then Scott will come on and get a 5-minute hat-trick.
You know what the best thing is? Farman nearly scored in midweek as well from the corner. If he'd scored, you would have never shut up about it.
Well,
You'd back him to score a goal, though, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Well, no, seriously, I put that prediction on the message board, actually. But it Harrogate and on the beach for me, and it should be a solid 2 or 3-0, I would say.
Yeah. And the Cheltenham game?
I would be happy with a point at Cheltenham. I really would. It would keep us in the mix. I'll go for 1-1.
Okay.
And hope we can sneak it, sort of thing.
Right. Well, I'm going to go. You didn't pick a goal scorer, but you never do you?
No.
I'm going to go for a good 3-0 win at the weekend. Good confidence with. I think we're going to go right out to get a result, just because we know we have to.
It wouldn't surprise me if we scored early on Saturday.
Yeah, have a real good go with them.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Patrick, Hayden, and George Tanner to get goals. And then midweek, you know what? 1-0 win. 1-0 win, and I'm going to back Toure to score the goal.
It would be very Carlisle United to sneak a win, wouldn't it? And have us hanging on for the Orient game. And
just be so frustrating, that, wouldn't it? But there you go. All right, Dan, let's move on to the X-Files now. Then you've collated these as usual.
Yes, there's a bit of a mixed bag this week. We've got players, managers, and other.
Yeah.
So goals in no particular order. Tom Lawrence notched for Derby. Peter Grant for Queen's Park. Cole Stockton got a couple for Morecambe.
I think he scored over 2 games, didn't he? He scored a goal in each.
Yeah. Angelo Balanta scored for Dagenham. Sean Miller for Bolton. In their surprise defeat at Grimsby late on. Andy Cook for Bradford. And the star player of the week, on loan from Stockport to Hartlepool.
People's elbow.
The people's elbow himself, Richie Bennett, with a hat-trick for Hartlepool down at Wealdstone. I think it was 7-2 in the end, that game. And I always buy the non-league paper to keep up on non-league matters. And I think their manager, the Hartlepool manager, was disgusted in the last 10 minutes because they conceded 2 late on. Even though they scored 7 away from home, he was like, it's not good enough.
The top of I'm just looking at the National League. They're top of the league, Hartlepool now. But
yeah,
it should be noted.
Sutton have 3 games in hand and a point behind. So.
Yeah, and Torquay a point behind, and they've got 2 games in hand as well. So.
Other player news, Jack Iredale won the League 2 PFA Fans Player of the Month for March.
He's having a great season.
Well deserved, he's been excellent. Young Jared Branthwaite, it looks like injury may have finished his season at Blackburn. He had a knock, he was out, he came back and he's got another knock. And then the surprise one, based on what we saw of him this season, Conor Malley came off the bench for Middlesbrough last night away at Rotherham after 23 minutes and got the Sky Bet Championship EFL Player of the Match.
Apparently he was excellent. The mate of mine watched it and said he was really good. And
I've got a couple of Middlesbrough fans and they were raving about him, and I sent them a message of saying, well, who was the player who came on loan to us? Because it wasn't him.
Maybe it was a good wake-up call for him coming to us and made him realise that I actually need to knuckle down if I want to play first-team football. And it's one of those ones, I think it's something we may need to discuss when we do like a season review episode. Beach maybe needs to look at how we can get a creative midfielder into that midfield play, because it's one thing he seems to really struggle with. He doesn't seem to know how to get a player like that into that free. It's tough, isn't it? But there we go.
But and manager news, we don't often have too much manager news. Former forward and fan favourite Lee Miller was sacked at Falkirk alongside his joint manager Davy McCracken. When you look at the league table, it's surprising because they're second, but they've dropped off a cliff like an avalanche.
I think they've won one of the last 6, I think, or something like that.
And I think and I think with a couple of fixtures left that they're worried they could completely drop out.
The problem they've got is, isn't it, that they're playing in an amateur league and they've got a full-time squad.
Yeah.
But
so
I think also,
to go up type thing.
I think also Partick have got a full-time squad, so you've got 2 teams there competing.
Yeah.
So it's tough, isn't it? It's tough for both of them.
And the other one, Davy Irons, has agreed to leave Stenhouse Muir.
Has he?
I think he still took them for their last game or something like that. But
Was it Annan that beat them last game or someone else? I'm not sure.
yeah, Adam played them. Yeah.
But
Davy Irons is no job, and that's the X-Files this week.
Brilliant. Thanks for that, Dan. And that's it for this episode. Nothing else to share with you. Thanks once again for joining me. In terms of specials, we're going to start recording a few for the summer soon, I think, just to make sure we've got a bit of content to put out, because we won't be doing too many regular episodes during that period.
No, we'll probably do, once the release list's out, we'll do a sort of an end of season review and release list.
Yeah. We'll do some awards episodes as well, actually.
We'll do an awards one.
Yeah.
And obviously when the fixtures come out, we can do a shorter episode on that. But we're trying to sort a couple more player interviews with some ex-players. We've made sort of our tentative inquiries, and it's potentially looking good. So we won't say who, because we don't like to spoil it. But I think you'll enjoy them if we get them.
Yeah.
We're doing our best 11s as well, aren't we?
Yeah.
We've already recorded mine.
I need to. I'm getting some little clips to put in it as well, some extra little bits. So we'll sort that soon. We're also going to start doing some of our planning for next season as well, aren't we, Dan? And looking at maybe revamping how we do episodes and things like that, and looking ahead and getting more people involved as well, especially getting some extra voices and stuff.
We've enjoyed getting opposing fans on.
Yeah,
we've built up a few sort of friendships, and this season, obviously, for the first games, we were full of facts and celebrity fans. There's only so often we can do that. Well, maybe next season, the previews will be more featured in the opposition view as opposed to ours. But,
that's what we'll look at doing. Something else we're looking at as well potentially is, if anyone's interested, we're looking at potentially sponsors for next season, because it does, believe it or not, cost a little bit of money to run this in terms of hosting and stuff like that, and the recording setup that we use to record each episode. So if you're out there and you're interested in maybe getting your business name as our official sponsor of the podcast, then drop us a message.
A nice little jingle sung by me, Lee and Mike.
Yeah, barbershop quality.
Or you could get a proper version done instead.
Yeah, we'll see if we can sort something out for that. But yeah, if anyone's interested in helping us and sponsors, we genuinely would really appreciate it. We might set up one of those little things where you can donate as the equivalent of a coffee or a pint or something as well, if you are interested. We don't do it to earn the money, do we, Dan? We do it for good fun because we enjoy talking about the Blues. But, anything that helps, and any extra we get, we'll try and put into the club in terms of sponsorship and stuff like that, won't we, for next season, I think. So, yeah, obviously, if you've got any comments or feedback, anything you'd like to suggest we discuss, send them in as usual via Twitter to @Brunton Bugle, or by email to bruntonbugle@gmail.com, or find us on the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group. If you haven't already as well, you can subscribe to the podcast via all good podcast apps, including Acast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. And also on any of those apps, please give us a review as well. It really does help. We've had some really good reviews. Actually, I had a good look through the other day. It's really
they're brilliant. I use Apple Podcasts a lot, and all the reviews on there are excellent. So Thanks very much, folks.
Yeah. In terms of the world map of listeners, Dan, I had a look this morning. No new countries, unfortunately. After you heard last week, we had Italy added to the list, which is good to see. So I think we've had most of Europe now. Not sure we've had Portugal. I'll have a go and look back and see.
We'll have a count up for the end of season.
Yes, we will do. We'll go through
when we do the sort of season review and release list, we'll pop that in at the end.
Exactly that. That's it. So yeah, hopefully this time next week when we look into the Orient game, we'll be talking about a very exciting run-in. If not, we'll be sort of doing a little bit of a post-mortem on maybe what we need to improve on next season, that kind of thing. But we'll have to wait and see. Dan, thanks once again for joining me. Always appreciated. Thanks everyone for listening, and up the Blues.
Up the Blues.